Hey everybody, I'm Alan with Dad's Playing Games, and this is the fourth video in a series we're doing on soldier strategies for the game of Frostgrave. Be sure to check the details below for timestamps for this video, and you'll also find links to some of our other Frostgrave content, or you can just visit our YouTube channel to see everything we've got. For all of these soldier strategy videos, I've grouped the soldiers into different classes, and there we will be looking at their costs, their stats and equipment, their uses, their viability both early and late in a campaign, and then comparing them amongst the other soldiers in their class. For this specific video, we'll be looking at the Tracker, the Ranger, and the Marksman. These three ranged soldiers make up the class I call the Advanced Bowmen. The first difference we'll see between these soldiers is their cost. The Tracker costs 80 gold crowns, while the Ranger and the Marksman both cost 100 gold crowns to hire. Looking at the stats and equipment for these soldiers, the Rangers and the Trackers are pretty similar, while the Marksman is quite a bit different. For the Tracker and Ranger, they both have a move of 7, a fight +2, a shoot +2, armor of 11, and 12 health. The Tracker has a will of just +1, while the Ranger has a will of +2. They both wear leather armor and carry a standard bow. However, the Tracker carries a staff, a new weapon to this series which causes the soldier to both inflict and receive -1 damage in melee combat, while the Ranger has a hand weapon. The Marksman has a move of only 5, has a fight +2, but he does have a shoot +3, an armor 12, will +1, and 12 health. Unlike the other advanced bowmen, the Marksman wears mail armor and carries a crossbow, and he also has a hand weapon like the Ranger does. Moving to the uses for these soldiers, if you've seen our video on the basic bowmen, the Tracker and the Ranger can be used fairly similar to how you'd use an archer, while the Marksman can be used similar to how you'd use a crossbowman. But let's talk about how to maximize the usage of these advanced bowmen. With the Tracker and the Ranger, these two soldiers are used pretty similarly on the battlefield. And they're kind of like if you took the two grunts, the thug and the thief, combined them with an archer to make one ultra soldier. And that's because they fight like a thug, they run like a thief, and they shoot like an archer. And they do this all with more will and more health than any of those soldiers. Comparing the Tracker and the Ranger to an archer, the increased move of these advanced bowmen and the better melee weapons makes these soldiers much more versatile. Their fast movement allows them to quickly get to vantage points or to out-of-the-way treasure tokens. And having a standard bow instead of a crossbow means they can continually rain down arrows, whether perched from on high or skirting around between buildings. For Trackers, since they carry a staff, I like to use them as treasure grabbers. While this weapon deals -1 damage, the soldier also receives -1 damage in melee combat, so it's almost like they've got more armor. I'm generally not excited to see my Trackers in close quarter combat, but having the staff will help them live if they do find themselves there. And when one of my soldiers is carrying treasure, I'm more concerned with them just living than I am with how much damage they're dealing to someone. So if they can just survive long enough until some backup can arrive, then that's really what I want. With the Ranger, since they've got a hand weapon, they don't have the same damage penalty on their melee attacks. But they also don't have the added defense bonus like the Tracker does. For this reason, I'm less likely to send them after treasure and actually more likely to send them into a melee, but usually as more of a supporting soldier. I like to put them near the action to shoot at the soldiers that aren't in combat, and then use their high move value to send them in when there's no clear shots. With their hand weapon and the support of another allied soldier, they can actually be quite effective in close quarters combat. And their will stat of +2 can be quite beneficial against certain playstyles or wizard types. With the Marksman, as I mentioned in the basic bowman video, Having that crossbow means that the soldier's used quite differently. The crossbow is much more of a sniper's weapon. It deals more damage, but it requires either the soldier's standard action or move action to reload. Also, the marksman's reduced move due to their mail armor definitely encourages finding a place to plant the soldier on the battlefield. Combining the +2 damage of their weapon and their natural +3 shoot ability makes them quite the threat if they're able to find themselves a nice vantage point on the battlefield. But if they do find themselves in melee, they can do a pretty good job holding their own with their mail armor and their hand weapon. And if they're holding an empty crossbow when an enemy draws near, sometimes it's a viable strategy to just charge into combat. Looking at these advanced bowmen over the course of a campaign, early on, none of these 3 soldier types are really that viable, and that's because of their increased cost over the basic bowmen. Although all 3 of these soldiers have more versatility, better stats, and equipment than the basic bowmen, the trackers and the rangers aren't any better at shooting than just a standard archer, and the marksmen are just barely better than crossbowmen at this. Since money is at a premium at the beginning of a campaign, if you need a ranged soldier, the 50 gold crowns that you'd spend for an archer or a crossbowman is probably going to serve you just fine. And it doesn't always make sense to spend that extra gold crowns for just a little more versatility or equipment. But later on in the campaign, spending a little more for these guys probably does make more sense. All 3 of these soldiers can be effective late in the campaign, as there are no soldiers that do what they do better than they do it. That's why they're the advanced bowmen. However, if you find yourself always ending up in melee combat, then you may want to look into your ratio between ranged and melee soldiers and get some soldiers with some better fighting skills. When it does come time to upgrade these soldiers, apart from the obvious archer becomes tracker or ranger and crossbowman becomes marksman, some other things I like to do are upgrade my thieves to trackers or rangers, because they still have that fast move of 7, but they also have improved fighting skills, and they've got a ranged attack if needed. So now that we've looked at what these soldiers have to offer, what their strengths are, and good ways to use them, now let's compare them against each other. We'll start with the easiest comparison here, which is the tracker against the ranger. With the ranger being higher costed, it seems like it should win this comparison. However, since I typically don't plan to send my ranged soldiers into combat, I feel the tracker with their staff is often better, as they essentially have better defense for the times they do get into combat when I don't want them to. But I do recognize there are those times when the hand weapon or the increased will can be more beneficial. For the marksmen, you lose a lot of mobility with their mail armor and their need to reload their crossbow after they shoot it. However, this video is about advanced bowmen, not about versatile soldiers. And with the marksman coming in with the highest shoot stat and the power of a crossbow, if you're playing your marksman as a true ranged soldier, I would say the marksman wins the title of the best advanced bowman. So, I'm interested to know your thoughts and experiences with the advanced bowman, whether you agree or disagree with my assessment, and if perhaps there's one of these 3 soldier types that you personally like to gravitate toward. So please let me know down in the comments below. And while you're there, you can click like and subscribe so you can keep up with all the content that Dad's Playing Games is releasing. And with that, I'm Alan with Dad's Playing Games, and we'll see you on the next video.